Shalom, this is the 13th video on Sefer Vayikra, and this is, without a doubt, most probably the most important one. I don't know how you judge one video more important than the other, or one pasuk more important than the other, but we're going to examine a comment by the Ramban that is, for those that study the Ramban, well, basically I would go this far: you cannot be a learned Jew without knowing this comment of the Ramban. And I would say you can't be a literate Jew without having familiarity with this concept that the Ramban is going to talk about being kadosh. Okay, so let's look at Yud Tes Aleph. We're going to see a machlokas between Rashi and the Ramban. And again, the Ramban's comments are the foundation of Judaism, really. The Ramban spells out a concept which thankfully he spelled out so well, but is a through and through a foundational point in Judaism. Okay. The pasuk says, "Daber al kol das bnei Yisrael v'amarta lahem kedoshim tiyu ki kadosh ani Elokechem." In Parak Yutes pasuk Beis, the pasuk says that Hashem tells Moshe, you should speak to bnei Yisrael and you should say to them, "You shall be sanctified, you shall be kadosh ani Hashem ki kadosh ani Hashem Elokechem," because I, Hashem, your God, am also sanctified, and therefore you shall be sanctified. Says Rashi, Divrei Maschil kedoshim tiyu Yutes Beis. He says, you shall separate yourself from illegal or illicit sexual activity and from sin. Anytime the Torah talks about not doing something sexual, whether it's incest or whether it's premarital sex or whether it's adultery, anytime you find any prohibition or anything set up to avoid arayos again is the word for illicit sexual activity, you're going to find afterwards that the Torah says that this is a kadosh way of being. The Ramban says that's not enough. Look at the Ramban, Divrei Maschil, Kedoshim Tiyu in Pasuk Beis. It's the third Divrei Maschil. First he quotes Rashi and takes issue with him. So he quotes Rashi's opinion. Then he says as follows. Listen up, because every word is sweet as honey. He says, Torah's Kohanim is a medrash on Sefer Vayikra, right? Isi stam perushim to you. It just says that you should be separate, right? It means you should separate yourself. Chein shanu sham. V'ikdashta v'yosim kedoshim ki kadosh ani. V'kishem shani kadosh kachatem ti kadoshim. The same way God says that I am kadosh, so too you should be kadosh. It says, Kishem shani parosh kachata perushim. Just like God separates himself from instinctual desires, so too you should separate yourself from instinctual desires. This isn't just talking about separating yourself from illicit sexual activity. That's a given. The Torah forbids it. Rather, there's a concept called perushim of being separate. That's a concept. The Torah forbids us from eating certain things and having sexual relations with certain people, but it does allow us to have tons of meat and tons of wine and to have relations with our spouses. And therefore, a person who wants to keep according to the strict rules of the Torah can be an instinctual being and only involve himself in instincts. He could be drunk and eat like a pig and have relations all the time with his many, many wives. So a person could be doing that, and that's not a refined lifestyle. Again, everything he's doing is perfectly permissible, but he's not leading a refined lifestyle. Not only that, but the person can speak with a foul mouth all he wants, and he hasn't violated anything in the Torah. And he's going to end up being an unrefined person with permission of the Torah. Right? If it wasn't for this next pasuk, so therefore after the Torah goes along and tells us everything that's forbidden, so you should also, says the Torah, be kadosh. You should parish yourself, you should separate yourself from even things that are permissible. So it's not that you're not allowed to be involved in the sexual, but rather you should limit it. Right? You shouldn't always be involved in having sex. Rather, it's when the Torah tells you that you should have relations, when it's appropriate, when it's building a relationship between you and your spouse, not just when you have a need. And you shouldn't have wine whenever you want, just when it's appropriate. We see what happens with Lot and with Noach when they got drunk and what happened. Right? Nothing good comes out of getting drunk. Right? And we should stay away from dead bodies and becoming tamei. Right? We should do things when it's appropriate and not all the time. And we should watch our mouths. We should watch our mouths from eating like an unrefined pig, and we should watch our mouths and make sure that we're not speaking in unrefined manners. And we should get to a point where we're kadosh like Rabbi Chia, where they testified about Rabbi Chia that he never spoke anything other than divrei chachma, wise words in his lifetime. So says the Ramban, this is like a catch-all, principled type of mitzvah. After Torah comes along and tells you all the things that are forbidden, then it comes along and says, Kedoshim to you, you shall be sanctified. Meaning, you shall be sanctified from things that are even permissible to you, so that you live a refined lifestyle and not one where you're only involved in your instinctual desires. And that's incredible machlokas between Rashi and the Ramban and how you understand Kedoshim to you. Shalom. Oh, greatest chachma from this is only going to come with your analysis. So although this is a great piece of Torah, your analysis is going to really make it great, and I can't wait to hear it. Shalom.